July, 1975. Three young adults find themselves spending time together in a college dorm room late at night. Among them is Anneliese Michel, a young German girl attending her first year of college, her boyfriend Peter, and their mutual friend Anna. It was an ordinary night, nothing special to recall aside from some light rain. The three of them were engaging in casual conversation, discussing daily events and everything in between. Eventually, the conversation slows, and Anna begins to observe Peter and Anneliese when suddenly and without warning, something changes. At first, she wasn't sure what was going on, but slowly and surely, it happened again. The corners of Anneliese's face begin to twitch and morph into something inexplicable, something malevolent and otherworldly. Her body became stiff, almost as if she was paralyzed. Anna exclaimed,
"What's happening?"
And Peter simply replied,
"It's the demons. We must pray them away."
This had unfortunately become the life of Anneliese Michel. Plagued by ghostly apparitions and demonic possessions, the worst was still to come. Welcome back. We're glad you're diving right back into this rabbit hole with us once more. When we last visited the curious case of Anneliese Michel, she had just been released from a mental institution and into the care of her loving family. Anneliese's time in this institution seemingly worsened her condition, doubling her encounters with the demons and leaving her in a depressed state. Despite all of this, her parents, more specifically, her mother, urged her to try and take charge in her life, insisting that she give college a try. Her mother knew that it was Anneliese's dream to one day become a school teacher, and she knew that Anneliese would hate it if she let that dream slip by. Anneliese shortly began to attend college, all while being regularly treated by a local priest who would meet with her and have small prayer sessions in the hopes of freeing her spirit from the jaws of her afflictions. Things remained about the same for quite some time, as Anneliese and her family adjusted to their new normality. One day, while attending class, Anneliese made a new friend by the name of Peter, a small, quiet boy who was just as shy as Anneliese herself. Anneliese and Peter quickly hit it off, becoming good friends, and eventually, more than just that. The two became a couple, and in due time, became very well acquainted with one another. Anneliese eventually disclosed the nature of her spiritual battles, and Peter was as supportive as could be. Finally, we've caught up to that rainy July evening in which Anneliese, Peter, and their friend Anna stood in Anneliese's dorm, mortified at the horrifying events that were unfolding, face-shifting, body-contorting, evil emerging. The full-on possession that was gripping Anneliese harder than ever before is in hindsight only a taste of the downward spiral that was to come their way. Anneliese's friends were lucky. It only took some light prayer and an hour or two for this condition to cease, but it was clear to everyone that for Anneliese, after this event, Peter and Anna made it their responsibility to look after Anneliese, as she was clearly not in a state well enough to look after herself, and even less so to attend her classes. The pair reached out to Anneliese's family, and in a week's time, she was brought back home to Klingenberg. Anneliese's mother instantly reached back out to the local church and notified them about Anneliese's worsening condition, to which they then assigned senior priest and exorcist Father Arnold Renz to oversee the case. Upon first meeting Anneliese, Father Renz was astounded by the supernatural symptoms the poor girl exhibited. Claims were made that any time she would stand, a great force would seemingly throw her onto the floor almost as a violent display of power. Anneliese's mother, Anna, would constantly say that the oppressive force threw Anneliese onto the ground so often that she would usually just end up sleeping on it. Although he practically needed no further convincing, Father Renz wanted to ensure that this was a case of genuine possession, so he had the family continue having her see as many psychiatrists and doctors as possible. After exhausting every medical resource he could think of, Father Renz enlisted the help of his colleague and fellow priest, Father Ernst Alt, to perform a trial exorcism in order to once and for all determine if Anneliese was truly possessed. Father Renz reports that he initiated the trial by mentally commanding the words, "Depart from her and reveal who you are," to which she then responded by launching herself into a state of rage, gripping her neck, clawing and destroying the rosary that hung on her neck. The very fact that she was able to destroy the object was extremely concerning to the priests, because it was widely understood that only the most powerful of demons have the ability to destroy such holy objects. The moment that the priests reached out to the Bishop of Würzburg, seeking the approval to perform an exorcism, it was granted with swiftness because their evidence overwhelmingly backed their claims so well. On Sunday, August the 3rd of 1975, Anneliese underwent her first exorcism. Unsurprisingly, things took a turn for the worst yet again, as Anneliese grew more violent towards her own family and even reached a point where she stopped eating real food. Anneliese's diet at one point consisted of cockroaches, flies, and spiders. Worse yet, the family itself was being plagued by hordes of flies and shadows which would often follow them through the home. The fact that we even have records to back this story is all thanks to the priest's personal records and journals. However, it's all thanks to Father Renz that we have digitally recorded proof of the events. Father Renz decided to bring with him a digital tape recorder which allowed to access this bone-chilling audio.
Wann bist du überhaupt hier?
Ich hab recht dazu, dass ich in dem Wald drin bin. Ich trag dir die Rotznase noch so lang, bis es lebt wird. Die Saublödelei. Für uns geht's kein Zurück. Nie! In alle Ewigkeit!
Sag mir den Namen.
Ich, der Judas und der Nero, der Kain und der Hitler. 5 Stimmen.
Das ist der 6.
Oh, den haben wir gelogen.
Den habt ihr natürlich.
From that point forward, it became a daily battle, with Anneliese consistently drifting in and out of lucidity, occasionally loosening the grip that her otherworldly captor had set on her. From time to time, Anneliese and Peter would daydream about their future together, with aspirations of one day moving out and getting married. One day, while the couple was out for a walk together, Anneliese wandered off in a direction of her own, refusing to stop despite Peter's best efforts. Interestingly enough, Anneliese would later claim that when she entered this trance-like state, she was transported somewhere else, where she claims to have walked alongside the Virgin Mary. In her supposed walk, she claims that Mary offered her a solution to the spiritual warfare. Anneliese was to be made a vessel for humanity's sins, taking on the penance in exchange for her freedom. Despite her mother's reservations, Anneliese later accepted the offer and hoped for the best. Mary gave her until October 31st to come to a decision. At the very top of 1976, Anneliese reported having a premonition that something troublesome would occur in the summertime. By July, this premonition would be proven correct. On July the 1st, after nearly 70 failed exorcisms, Anneliese Michel was found dead from starvation. At only 23 years old, the poor girl only weighed 30 kilograms or 66 pounds by the time of her death. Once word got out about the tragedy, charges were filed upon all involved parties, stating that they were all 100% liable in the reckless negligence that ultimately took the life of a girl who didn't know any better. The court proceedings went on for some time, and it was awfully riddled with inconsistencies, from the fact that post-mortemers found her to have had a healthy-looking brain at the time of death, to the fact that she had no bed sores or serrations, which are very common in cases of starvation. So many tiny details were thrown to the court to combat the thought that anything about this case was as simply dismissible as blaming it all on mental illness or neglect. Of course, their biggest claim to evidence were the tapes and video recordings. However, those were thrown out and dismissed quite early on. In the end, all 4 individuals were found guilty and forced to serve 6-month suspended prison sentences. It is important to note that Anneliese's family never took any sort of compensation for the case or from the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I don't feel comfortable reaching too deeply into the conspiracy bag of this case, as after all, this is a true story, but why were the judges against every sense of proof that was presented to them? There are so many questions still unanswered, and it's a curious thought to wonder just who had that much authority to rule so harshly when making this final decision. If anything is obvious in this case, it's that everybody involved had the best intentions at heart for Anneliese, so why make things out to be this misleading? The tapes are plentiful and should count as enough evidence for further investigation. I mean, just one listen of the malevolent voice coming out of a sweet, innocent girl should be enough. Justice wasn't served, and the truth was hidden, but it's up to us to make it right. If you believe the story, that is. What do you think about this case? Be sure to share your thoughts with us in the comments, and we thank you for joining as we dive deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole.